This is Planet 76, your source for all things Philadelphia 76ers. We've got another great episode coming your way today, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go. What is going on, Planet 76? Merry Christmas from Planet 76. This is December 26th. We're recording fresh off of a Sixers win in the nation's capital against the Wizards. Solid win tonight. We're going to get into that game, all the action there. We're going to talk about the Boston Celtics game earlier this week up in Boston. We also had a matchup with the Atlanta Hawks this week. All that and more, just other Sixers-related news and things like that. So we're going to get into it. My name's Troy. That's Michael. And welcome to Planet 76. Mike, what's going on?
Not much, man. As you said, Christmas, holiday season, festivities going on. I'm still a little festive with this red cup here. But yeah, it was a good weekend, Sixers land. 3 wins. Should have been 4 wins, but we'll get into it. The Pelicans game was postponed, so there's that. But yeah, great, good stuff. Just nice to be on the winning side of basketball for the Sixers.
Yeah. So tonight's win against the Washington Wizards kept the Sixers from falling under or beneath 500 and now sit at 17 and 16. Same record as the Wizards. There's a lot of teams with like either one above 500, one below 500, or right at 500 in the Eastern Conference right now. So a log jam there. But we can start with Washington. Again, game just ended, went final, 30 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. So we're going to get into that one. Most notably, I think, there was a little scuffle between Montrezl Harrell and Joel Embiid in this one. For those listening, I don't know if you want to go ahead and describe that for them or if they didn't catch it.
Yeah, well, basically, it was, I believe, the third quarter, and Joel Embiid had the ball in the post. He gave Montrezl Harrell a little elbow. Montrezl Harrell didn't like it because he's clearly a crybaby, and he sort of grabbed Joel Embiid, almost bear hugged him, and obviously Joel Embiid didn't like that, so there was a little bit of a scuffle, and I'm pretty sure, from what I recall, I think Joel Embiid walked away, or maybe he started the scuffle, or did Harrell start the scuffle? Either way, there was a little bit of a fight between Harrell and Embiid, and technical fouls were assessed, and then I think a few plays shortly after, if not the very next play,
I think the first 2 plays,
Harrell shoved Embiid with one arm, and Embiid was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And I believe that led to Harrell's ejection, rightfully so, because he's a bum. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I actually was listening to the Wizards broadcast tonight, and they were getting on my nerves a little bit.
I can imagine.
Just because I'm not in the Philadelphia area, but it was the way to me. And I honestly don't think it's just me being a Sixers fan. I think it's just me just watching what happened. I think it was pretty much all Harrell, because one, Harrell's response to him falling when Joel was in the post, like his response to that, to go wrap up Joel Embiid, grab onto his jersey, hold on to his jersey, take him for a ride, was like, oh my gosh, Joel must have elbowed him in the face, like live. You're thinking, oh my gosh, what did Joel do? You watch the replay, and Joel, like, from the angle I saw, Joel hardly did anything. Kind of just making a move, looked like a major flop to me. And then Harrell, like, again, grabs onto Joel's jersey. And then the only thing that I saw that could have been on Joel was that after, like, Joel was kind of off balance and grabbed a hold of Harrell, kept his arms on Montrez while, Harrell had him by the jersey, though. It was just interesting, but it was capped off and highlighted by, again, like you mentioned, not 2 plays later, Joel gets an and one on Harrell. He screams and one. Montrez pushes him in the back, and out he goes, ejected. That was the highlight. Other than that, pretty solid win. Sixers were down after the first quarter tonight, but the second and third quarters, I think, were the story in this one. Sixers won the second quarter 38-24. 29-17 in the third. And that'll pretty much do it in terms of what the Sixers needed to do. What did you like in this one, other than Joel?
I liked, honestly, even though I think he made like 2 shots, I like Tyler Johnson. I think the shots he hit were kind of like, oh wait, we have this guy on our team. I forgot about him.
Right.
And Harris had a good game. Korkmaz had a good game. And I wasn't sure. I saw some nice plays from Seth. Didn't quite catch how his stat line ended up. But just one of those wins where it's an overall well-rounded win. Obviously, Embiid is going to be your leading scorer by a large margin. But I liked how Harris played. I liked how Korkmaz played. I liked Maxey as well, obviously. Just a good win. I think it ended up being a 15 or 16 point margin, probably a little more. 21. Well, that was close. And yeah, I think to the Montrezl Harrell thing, I think he's undersized. I believe he's only 6'8", 6'9". He plays center for the Wizards. He's a center.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
And when he's matching up against bigger guys, he knows he doesn't stand a chance in terms of physicality. He's getting stomped on. And I think he knows that, so that when a guy like Joel Embiid gives him a little nudge, he flops and he sells it, and he's able to get away with it because he's smaller than Embiid. So the refs give him the benefit of the doubt. If he was 2 inches taller, I don't think we would have seen that. I think we would have probably seen. I don't know if we would have seen a different outcome, but I know that Harrell probably wouldn't have gotten some of the calls that he was getting in that game, to say the least.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. He is undersized. That's a good point. He plays like he's an undersized, angry little big man, if you can say it that way. He certainly ain't small, but he is small for the position that he plays. Joel, I'm looking at the box score now. Seth Curry had 9 assists in this one.
Oh, really?
I don't know of another game that he's had that many. He shot the ball pretty poorly. I had a couple, had 3 threes, 3 from 8 from 3, but 4 of 14 overall. But, I mean, the starters just did it in this one. Tobias was only a plus 16. Everybody else was either a plus 25 and up, with Tyrese Maxey being a plus 31 in 33 minutes. That is just as good as it gets, really. Like you mentioned, Korkmaz was good. Korkmaz was good off the bench, especially early. We kind of needed him. I think maybe he might have had a nice little run himself end of the first quarter, somewhere early on in the first half, where he made some things happen. But nonetheless, a good win. Tobias is probably my shout out on this one. He just looked good. 10 for 16, doing really whatever he wants. They threw multiple bodies at him. He was able to get to his spots very well. You could just see that. He was comfortable getting to the rim, attacking mid-range, doing his thing. And so he looked pretty good tonight. It's funny you mentioned Tyler Johnson. So I actually had a tweet I wanted to read to you from a few days ago. I was like, yes, this is perfect. So this says, Doc is saying that Tyler Johnson doesn't know the playbook yet. Okay, understandable. He's on a 10-day contract. But I'm suspicious a partially filled in Winnie the Pooh coloring book takes very long to memorize.
Oh, God. Wow. That's
Shots
funny.
fired at Doc Rivers.
That's funny.
Yeah. But, yeah, Tyler Johnson, I mean, he's not like he's not like Joe Johnson on the Celtics. Like, I mean, he can shoot it a little bit. And not that, I mean, I love Joe Johnson, but, I mean, Tyler Johnson, I think, is only like 29. So, can't be upset with him with this 10-day contract. Anything else from this game, or do we jump around a little bit?
I don't think so. It looks like Doc emptied the bench tonight, though. 15 deep, and Springer played. Wow, that's something to behold for sure. Wow.
Yeah, good to see George Niang back.
Oh yes, shout out George Niang. Quickly becoming one of my favorite NBA players, straight up. Like, he's just that guy. He is. He's a beast.
The Wizards broadcast tonight compared him to Jared Dudley.
Come on,
I don't
dude.
know how you feel about that, but
that's so disrespectful.
They
Don't
were
disrespect
just
George
so there
like
was
that.
back-to-back possessions. He said he made the. I mean, you hear announcers say this, but like this was just like kind of rude. And I was like, dude, about Korkmaz. Korkmaz hit a three, and he's like, dude, you see Korkmaz walking down the street. He's not exactly a guy you think is going to give you 30 in the NBA. Like, we're not talking about the YMCA.
Neither are half the
And,
players
you
in
know,
the
this
Wizards.
guy Korkmaz doesn't look like. Yeah. So they were clowning. And the next possession, Niang hit a three, and he says, oh, man, modern-day Jared Dudley. And I was just like, dude, take it
Casuals.
easy. Very much so. Very much so. I do want to say, too, so just even outside of basketball, so Tyrese Maxey, I forget what night. I mean, you might know a little bit more about the fire at Tyrese Maxey's house.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, everyone was okay, fortunately. His family, I believe, was there just for the holidays and things like that. And so, but Tyrese and everyone okay. I'm not sure about all of the damage with the house or anything like that. But glad to hear that everybody's okay. And, you know, kind of a scary ordeal when you see that. So, but Tyrese did play in this one tonight. So, yeah. All right. So, like as you mentioned, the New Orleans Pelicans game was postponed due to COVID. It's getting out of hand. Not almost. It's out of hand.
It's crazy.
In the NBA and the NFL and college football. I don't know if you follow like college football bowl games and stuff are just getting canceled left and right because teams are getting COVID and it's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, you're seeing quarterbacks out here playing that are fourth string quarterbacks in the NFL just because everybody else in the QB room is out. It's wild. It's wild, but the show goes on. Sixers then met up with the Boston Celtics, and that, my friend, was a good game. What's your takeaways there? 108-103 Sixers win in Boston.
That was a fantastic game. I usually when it's the Celtics, I would say a statement win, and I probably still would because I mean the Celtics have their inconsistencies and issues themselves, as the Sixers do. You know, as do the Sixers, but that was a really good game, and I think and obviously Embiid had a phenomenal game. That was one of the games I remembered vividly because even though I didn't watch the whole thing, I ended up catching it. I think I watched the whole fourth quarter. Embiid played amazing, 41 points, 10 rebounds. Like this dude, he hit probably 3 or 4 jumpers to ice the game. And when he hit that third one, I was like, it's over. That step back he hit on Canner. Oh my gosh, that was magical.
Marcus Smart came over to help.
That was magical.
Nothing.
Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Seth Curry played well in that game.
Yeah.
He had 7 assists in that game too. I didn't even realize that.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so Joel had 41, Tobias 25, Seth 26. I think at least that day that was the most by a trio in the NBA this season. Did I see that?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I think okay.
That was that game. Yep.
So don't hate that going to Boston and doing that with a trio. Just one bench point in this one. Now, granted, a very much shorthanded roster in this game, but one bench point. Certainly carried by the starters in this one. Joel, Seth, and Tobias and Danny Green all played 40-plus minutes against Boston. Jaylen Brown had a good game. He had 30. Tatum, a little quiet, 5 of 14, 7 free throws to give him 17 in this one. He was active, rebounding, and getting his assist on. Enes Kanter Freedom with 15. But, yeah, you're right, though. That ending to that game, Joel, which brings me to a thought, because he was, without a doubt, the closer in that game. He's kind of been, I forget what the term is. Is it clutch points in the NBA? When it's under a certain 2-3 minutes and the game's close, Joel's like leading the league in clutch points a game or something like that. Not bad. It's one of those stats, like dealing with late game scoring, which brings me to this question: Is Joel Embiid the closer? Is he capable of doing that? And is it even realistic to expect him to do that on a regular basis to be the go-to guy late game, even though he's a center, because that's not normal. And I'm here to tell you, like, that's just not what you see in the NBA. Joel Embiid is not a normal center. What's your take on that? I mean, is he the guy for the role? Can he do it?
So this is a pretty loaded question. And also, in that game, Isaiah Joe was out there running around. 26 points, 26 minutes, 1 point.
Yeah.
26 minutes, 1 point.
He was getting some good cardio.
I'm sorry. I just had to.
That was like Matisse tonight. That's like Matisse tonight. Let me look what Matisse did today, because I think he attempted one shot in 28 minutes, 0 points, 5 fouls.
Oh
yeah.
gosh!
One shot attempt for a starter. Yeah.
I just had to get that in. I'm sorry.
But anyway,
yes.
No.
Anyway,
I like it.
Can Embiid be the closer? Is he the closer? Well,
or even like should he be? Is that ideal?
Now, when you're looking at a normal basketball team, and the Sixers are not a normal basketball team, so let's just get that out of the way. When you're looking at a normal basketball team, ordinarily, your best player is your closer. For example, Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant is, although they have Irving and Harden, KD is probably their closer. He's probably the guy that they go to the most. Lakers, I can almost guarantee you LeBron James is their closer. And again, these are, for the most part, normal basketball teams. The Sixers are not that. But if we go by that standard, the answer would be yes. Joel Embiid should be the closer because, and I love Tobias Harris, but I don't know if he's the guy that I would ideally give the ball to in a situation where the Sixers need a shot in crunch time. Joel Embiid is the guy I would give the ball to, not only because he's their best player, but he, like you mentioned, the clutch points, the fact that he can make shots like that. We saw it against Boston. I'm sure I can find clips elsewhere of him doing that against other teams. He does this.
Right.
Like, he can do this. He's capable of doing this. Now, is it, what was the word you said, realistic? Or what did you say?
I guess realistic or optimal. Is it ideal?
Is it ideal? Well,
for your center in Joel Embiid to be the go-to guy late?
Well, like you mentioned, he's not a normal center. And if he was a normal center, I'd say no. But since he is not a normal center, and he's someone in the league of only probably 3 or 4 guys who can actually do what he does, being 7 feet tall, I would say yes. Because again, he can do it. He does this. We know he does this. And if the Sixers had another guy alongside him who could do this, then I would maybe, I'd maybe say, hey, defer to that guy a couple times a night. I'm sorry, a couple games every now and then, but they don't have that guy yet. Embiid is that guy, and there are situations where Curry can be that guy. If it's a 3-point scenario, if it's some sort of quick shot, I would give it to Curry. He's statistically their best shooter. Obviously, he is the best shooter on the team. Like, we know that as well. Yeah, I mean, ideally, you wouldn't want a center being that guy. But again, 1, Joel Embiid is their best player. And 2, he's really the only guy they have that can hit shots like that on a consistent basis.
Yeah. I agree. Well said. I think that, you mentioned the key there, to me at least, is, because it's not like you've got Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid, or you've got, James Harden and Joel Embiid. You've got Joel Embiid and Joel Embiid. Like, he is the option, at least right now. You know what I mean? If we bring someone in, like you mentioned, I think that's an excellent point. The fact that, Joel can work with somebody. It doesn't always have to be give Joel the ball. It can be someone that can create their own shot. And Sixers don't have a guy that, I mean, as you mentioned, it's amazing that that we're a okay basketball team right now, and Joel Embiid is our best player. He's the center, and he's the guy that we want to, like, even create late game. And yeah, I mean, and I think Seth can be involved there too. I don't think he's the guy every single night, but like you said, in a 3-point situation or just when you need a bucket, get him involved, get him moving, because he can make, kind of like how we used to utilize J.J. Redick. I mean, J.J. Redick would take some shots late game. for this team. Coming off screens and giving a little two-man action with Joel. Stuff like that could be useful as well. But yeah, I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. Just given the team where they're at right now, Joel is that guy, and I think he likes that. I think he enjoys that. I don't think he feels the pressure. Although he did miss the game-tying mid-range shot against the Hawks. But,
it happens.
Whatever.
It happens to the best.
But it does. It does. So that one, I don't know how much of that game you caught against the Hawks. Was it a back-to-back? That was after Boston, right?
No, it wasn't a back-to-back. It was Monday was Boston,
but
Thursday was Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah, I'm way off. I don't know. Christmas. Anyway, I caught the fourth quarter of that one. And I go on Twitter and Instagram and everything, and people are just mad about how that game started. Like, what was the big deal? I know that they didn't have Trae Young, they didn't have some other guys, I guess. Bogdanovich pissed me off, I'll tell you that much, in the fourth quarter. But why were people upset?
Well, this was one of the games. This was the game this year that I probably watched the least of.
Okay.
But I'd have to imagine, right along with what you said, I'd have to imagine that people were upset just because the Sixers were, I believe they were down. Yeah, the first quarter they were down by 12, it looks like. And I'd have to imagine that was it. And you're angry because, hey, guess what? The Hawks don't have Trae Young. They don't have Clint Capella. They don't have, who else did they not have? Kevin Huerter. These three of their best players, arguably their three best players, and they're down by 12, 14. What is that, 14? 12. 12 points in the
and
14.
I think
14,
they had
14.
at least two guys that are on 10-day contracts get some minutes in that one, I think.
Oh, yeah. Lance Stevenson is part of their G League team all of a sudden. Lance Stevenson.
And Wes Iwundu, he's on a 10-day contract. He actually got COVID after that. So that sucks. 10-day contract, you get COVID. But So do you think it was just because of how shorthanded the Hawks were in that game as to why there was frustration, as to why people were upset that, that's such a bad loss? I saw that. I saw this is the worst loss of the season. Is that why? Just because of the shorthanded Hawks?
I think that, and also, I think, number one, the loss, and number two, the fact that it was a loss against shorthanded Hawks. So combine those two, and I think that's what you got. Because when the Sixers lose, it's a madhouse, as you know. But when they lose, when the context of their loss is something like this, where they lose to a team that, quite frankly, should not be beating them, it's a madhouse times 10. So I think and a lot of people just kind of look at a loss and they're like, oh, the Sixers suck. And this scenario, okay, I can understand that. But a lot of scenarios, it's like, you have to look at why they lost. No loss is the same. They could lose by 20 and the circumstances be totally different if they lose by 6. No loss is the same. So, I mean, and obviously this loss, this was horrible. This was just flat out bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't even watch the game, but I'm just looking at the box score, looking at the final score, just seeing how everyone played. I know Thibault isn't a scorer much, but 31 minutes, 8 points. Could you imagine if Thibault scored 31?
Oh my gosh.
Korkmaz, 22 minutes, 6 points. Harris, 16, 38 minutes. Need more production from your main guys. And it hurt not having, pretty much had their whole team. It looks like Danny Green didn't play. Niang was still out. So it's just it's one of those games.
Yeah.
One of those games.
It is one of those games, and it's amazing how many. Every single team is affected by what's going on in the world. It's amazing. I don't know who hasn't been in COVID protocol for the Sixers.
Yeah,
there's 2 or 3 in every single week.
Yeah.
The latest is who? Who's in it right now? Danny Green.
And Shake, I believe.
Shake, and there's somebody else I'm thinking of.
Is it
Andre Drummond.
Oh, it might be Andre Drummond. Now it
Yeah,
makes sense why
'cause they
Bassie and
saw
Reed got so many minutes tonight.
right. Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
he's in COVID protocol. I think he ain't
Well,
hurt.
Bassie only played
But it's
6 minutes,
amazing, like
but-
just how you just see report after report after report of who's in it now. It's been incredible, and it's funny because a few weeks ago we talked about health being the important thing for the Sixers if they're going to make a run, if they're going to climb the standings, and it just hasn't
You've had
happened
quite
yet.
the
And,
opposite.
maybe yeah, exactly. 2022 will change that as we approach the new year, but I don't know. I mean, it's. And I think, again, our last episode was titled Panic Button or something because Panic Button with a question mark on it because, like, it's not time to do that because we haven't seen the Sixers team play together yet. Literally have not seen them play. And so it's like, how much can we really judge them? How much weight, how much stock can we put into this? Given that they're missing 2-3 guys a night. Literally 2-3 guys out of their 8, 9, 10 man rotation every single night. It's nuts. I will say this one bright spot over his last 4 games, Joel Embiid, 36 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks against the Boston Celtics. Oh my goodness, what a game. 41 points, 10 boards, 5 blocks. And then tonight against the Hawks, or against the Wizards, 32, 9 boards, and 6 assists in that one. So, good stuff from Joel. He's I'm sorry. So that, his last 5 games, add a 5th game to that. Tonight was 36 and 13.
Oh, okay.
So that's his last 5. He's rolling. And you got to love to see that, right?
Yeah, if there's one player I really would like to see getting his footing, it would be Embiid, and then it'll be Harris.
That's fair. Yeah, he's would love to see him continue where he's been. Again, those last 5 games are pretty Embiid-like, so love to see that trend upward. Like you said, Tobias Harris, he's been over 23 in 3 of his last 5 games, 23 or more in 3 of the last 5, so that's encouraging from a guy that's getting a lot of, at least in Sixers world, getting some hate, if you will. He was not getting hate, however, on the Wizards broadcast tonight. They were kind of showing some love to Tobias Harris, which is something new.
Surprising.
Because you don't always hear that.
I was just going to say, you don't always hear that.
Yeah. But maybe he gets more love elsewhere outside of Philadelphia. We've talked about Tobias over and over, but yeah, so... Sixers coming up real quick. Who do we got? Let's see here. I think we got the Nets coming up this week. So we got a game against Toronto on Tuesday, Brooklyn on Thursday, and then that'll close out the calendar year, and then a trip to Houston on Monday, January 3rd. So a nice little, 3 days off between Brooklyn and Houston. Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. But Toronto, Brooklyn, Houston coming up. I would love to give some predictions or thoughts or whatever, but who knows who's even going to be playing in those games.
Sad but true. Just don't know.
Sad but true. Any other thoughts that you have on those 3 coming up?
No, I was just going to say you would like to see 3 wins because I don't think Durant's going to be playing. Well, actually, he might play, so that's going to be a loss, probably. Because Harden's back as well. And then Raptors, I mean, I don't know what to expect from the Raptors. They beat the Sixers last time on that Fred VanVleet 3. It's still burned into my memory. And then Rockets, I don't even know. I don't even know.
Who knows, dude? They either go on a winning streak or a losing streak.
It's the Sixers.
Something else.
The Sixers, they've always been one of the most unpredictable teams in the league because they could beat the Lakers by 30 and then lose to the Spurs by 90. Like that's just and I feel like that's just how the NBA is, where there's any team can win on any given night. But also it's like
right.
the good teams are supposed to win majority of the time. That's what we're seeing with the Warriors,
Right.
Suns. These teams still haven't had 10 losses yet. Like, that's what consistency is. So,
Yeah. Golden State and the Suns have 6 losses apiece.
Wow.
The Nets have 9.
Yeah.
Then the Jazz also have 9. I will say this just to kind of wrap up, unless you got something else. But the Eastern Conference standings is what I wanted to touch on really, really quick. Like I said earlier, it's a log jam, if you will, between let's say 6 and 11 right now. Between 6, the Sixers are the 6th seed as it stands right now. I get that we're only 33 games into the season. But between 6 and 11, there's only a game and a half of separation. So a lot of teams right there. But where I see not a problem, but something to keep your eye on, something I'm going to keep my eye on at least, is, okay, the Sixers are the 6th seed. 6 through 11 is tight, but the gap between 5 and 6 is starting to grow. And it's only 3 games right now. But keep your eye on that, because if the Sixers want to get into, a top 4 seed, that gap can't keep growing. So ahead of them, obviously, the Nets, the Bulls, the Bucks, the Heat, and the Cavaliers at 20 and 13 with 3 games of separation on the Sixers right now. Just something to keep your eye on, you know what I mean? Because if that stretches out 7-8 games, we're going to be hoping for the 6th seed. So we don't have to have that play-in. But just keep your eye on that. I know I will. And hopefully the Sixers can climb up a few spots. Let me actually, okay. Here's how we're going to end it.
Okay.
Here's how we're going to end
right.
it. I figured it out. Okay, I'm going to name a team out of those 10, 11 teams that are kind of
in the race,
hunt-ish right now, whatever you want to say. And you're going to say contender or pretender.
Sweet.
And
I like that.
I don't mean like necessarily finals contender. I just mean like, I don't know what I mean.
There will be a
determine
fine
what the
line
word
between.
Contender means.
There will be a fine line. So if a team gets snubbed, they don't make the cut. But it's simply put.
I'll start easy. Brooklyn Nets.
Contender, quite easily. Even if Irving doesn't come back, which I don't think he's going to. Or no, he is. Isn't he coming back at some point?
For road games, maybe. Yeah.
So even if he plays half the games, I mean, come on.
Unless he causes them to struggle. I don't even know.
No.
I don't even want to go there. All right, no. Chicago Bulls.
Pretender.
Woo-wee.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not.
Right. Sitting it.
I'll get some hate for that at some point, but they're not. They're not. I don't think they're in the Bucks tier, the Nets tier, the Heat tier. They're not. I don't think they are. They're really good, but no, they're not in that tier.
But they're
like a 1B team.
They're like a contender to host the first playoff series.
Yeah.
Obviously. Right, okay. Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, easily contender.
Miami Heat.
Contender.
Sitting at 21 and 13, okay. Another interesting one, sitting at 20 and 13. One of the surprises, certainly of the league right now, if you can say that. The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Pretender.
What's your pretender, and then explain that? What's their ceiling, I guess?
Their ceiling this season, or their ceiling overall?
This season. What's the round of the playoffs they can get to?
First round exit.
Woo-wee!
I was gonna say second round,
it.
but I was like, no, there's no way they make it that far. No offense to Cleveland, they look like a really good team. It's just I don't think they have the personnel yet.
Right. All right. Washington Wizards,
Pretenders.
17 and 16 right now. Okay. No further comment on that
That's
one.
it.
Not necessary. Boston Celtics.
Pretenders. They're in the Bulls tier. The Celtics, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. We'll level them off. All right. The Atlanta Hawks.
Hawks too. They're in the Bulls tier. Pretender.
That tier. Okay. And last but not least, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Pretender, yeah.
What are they? What
Pretender.
are we?
We keep it unfiltered here. I think the Sixers are also in that tier.
Okay. And what? I'm just putting you on all sorts of hot seats tonight, and I love it. What can take the Philadelphia 76ers from that tier? Because coming into the season, quite frankly, they weren't that tier.
Right.
Now they might not have. They might have been a tier, if I can say it this way. They might have been a tier by themselves between teams like the Bulls and the Celtics, and
Yeah.
not the Hawks, the Nets and the Bucks. They might have been between them. Is that fair?
Yes, I would say so.
And right now you're saying they're not. They're a level below that. So what is it going to take for the Sixers to get to where we thought they would be?
No, they're in that tier right now.
Right, but I'm saying that, like, I think that the Sixers coming into this season were in a tier by themselves between teams like the Celtics and the Hawks. Like they're tier 3, hypothetically. Nets and the Bucks are tier 1. Sixers are tier 2. I might be confusing you.
No, I got you.
How do the Sixers go from tier 3 with all those teams to tier 2?
Tier 2. Trading Simmons.
My man.
And getting adequate pieces or Damian Lillard around around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and I should say Joel Embiid. No one else because he is the Sixers.
No, yeah.
So.
The cards are on the table.
He isn't the Sixers, but you know what I mean.
Every other card is on the table.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
No, you answered exactly how I wanted you to, because that's honestly what it's going to take, and I hope the front office realizes that if we want to get to where we thought we could be this season. I'm not saying that. I mean, who knows what kind of deal? It depends, like, where I see the ceiling going for the 76ers, depending on the kind of player we get. If it's Damian Lillard, if it's, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if it's DeJounte, like, there's different levels of that. But it's going to take somebody for us to jump out of the tier with those other teams that are around the same level, same record, to go and at least pressure the Bucks and the Nets. We don't want to get too carried away, but at least put something on them.
At least give them a show. Give them dinner and a show before we get out. Like,
exactly. Exactly. Oh, my goodness. This has been a good ending to Planet 76 episode something. I don't even know what number we're on, 34, 35. It'll be in the comment.
Are we that far?
Or in the description. Yeah, man. Well, maybe not.
Wow.
Let me look.
I think we're like 32, right? 33?
You name it. So what do you think this episode is? I'm about to have
32.
it in a second.
32.
You think this is 32?
Yeah.
This is 33.
What? No.
That's pretty good for you, though.
No way.
33.
All right. I'll take it.
I think we did 2 last week, so that's why. Anyway.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
This has been episode 33 of Planet 76. I'm Troy. That's Michael. We hope you will tune in with us again next week. We will probably be shooting in the new year, so this is our last episode of 2021. Hope you all have a wonderful start to the new year, and we will see you in 2022. Are you on Instagram? Why don't you go give us a follow at Planet76 Podcast so you can be in the know when we drop new episodes. Thanks for listening to this one, and we'll see you next time.